What's up, everybody? So this is, of course, your boy Jonathan Lynham from Tennessee on the For Your Eyes Only channel. And if you watched any of the videos I put out before, you know I like all the aspects of the Bond universe. One aspect of it that I think is kind of looked down on or kind of overlooked, whatever you want to call it, is of course the Bond comics. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at one of my favorite of all the Bond comics. We're going to look at Permission to Die. And let's get right to it. But before we get into this, like this video, subscribe, do all that good stuff, okay? Do one for me, all right? Do one for your boy. Okay, let's get at it. So the story starts with an embassy being surrounded by police as it is being held up by terrorists who have taken hostages. The SAS are on the way, but the police say that they will not make it on time. But one person seems very sure that someone will save the day, someone who trains with the SAS. That is, of course, our boy, James Bond. We see our hero in a kilt and see him removing a knife and kicking into action when the terrorists are about to execute some hostages. We see him take the terrorists down successfully and trade a few words with the SAS, and then he goes for a smoke where he meets a young lady who provides Bond with his first opportunity in the comic for him to say his famous line, "Bond, James Bond." We then have a page showing different characters from other adventures, which I really like. It's letting us know that this is the same guy we have been with for so long. We also see Bond thinking about his deceased wife, giving us a nod back to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but this is quickly left to get back on to the current story. Moneypenny calls and interrupts Bond from his night with this woman, and calls him to M's office. And we are treated to seeing the classic Aston Martin DB5, and some classic Bond and Moneypenny conversing. Bond goes into M's office, which of course has the classic leather padded door, which I love. In M's office, we see Bond being questioned by M about his actions earlier at the embassy, and M really isn't happy with Bond, even though his actions saved the life of several people. We then see M question Bond about Star Wars, the program, not the movie, and we get a classic scene where Bond gives off an encyclopedic bit of knowledge about the subject in the vein of Roger Moore. We're introduced to Dr. Eric Widzialdo, who has an appropriately Fleming-esque backstory, being a Holocaust survivor and opposing the Soviet Union due to his want for reform in the Soviet satellite states. Of course, he is appropriately said to be disfigured, so this obviously must be our villain. He also has moved to the USA and has taken to capitalism quite well. As it is said, he owns a resort and apparently operates some gambling from there, which Bond states is illegal in the state of Idaho, which is an interesting thing for a British agent to know. The man in question has developed a space launch program independent of any government involvement, and while America has attempted to get their hands on the technology, he has refused to have anything to do with it. He has, however, offered the system to the British in exchange for a favor. The favor in question is a certain woman who happens to be his niece, Edane Gala, who is living in Hungary. So Bond now has his mission, which is to extract her from Hungary by whatever means necessary and exchange her for the plans to Widzialdo's launcher. At first, Bond is none too thrilled about having to babysit a woman across Europe. Bond thinks it's just to get him out of London until the press dies down about the terrorist incident earlier in the story. But M reassures Bond that it is a serious matter and that Bond was chosen for his knowledge of that part of the world and because his contact is a member of the family of Karam Bey. We then see some flashbacks to good old Karam, which does a lot to reestablish the memory of their friendship from the story From Russia with Love. After hearing about Karam Bey's family involvement, Bond is ready to go, and we get a nice nod to the Bond novels as M instructs Bond to have his housekeeper, May, pack a bag for Bond before instructing Bond to go to the armorer. The armorer in question is, of course, our boy, Major Boothroyd, also known as Q in the movie. This adaptation is very much modeled after the real-life Jeffrey Boothroyd, on which the character is based on. They are, from the start, bickering about Bond's sidearm, as he is defending his PPK as he once defended his Beretta. Boothroyd arms 007 with the ASP 9mm, which is a modified Smith & Wesson M39. I love that this weapon is featured here because this is the same gun that John Gardner, James Bond with in his novels, which I feel are very underrated novels, and that's really a hot take on my part because a lot of people don't like them. Anyway, Boothroyd also talks about the rounds in the gun, which are Glazer safety slugs, which make the gun very deadly as the .44 Magnum Bond keeps in his car, as Boothroyd states. Bond also gets a piece of luggage with an X-ray shielded compartment so that Bond can smuggle whatever he needs to through airports or any type of security. As leaving, Q gives us the title drop, and Bond is off to Budapest, where right off we see a nice variation of the "Do you have a match?" code signal. And we meet Vavra, who takes Bond to his hotel, where he has checked in as Mr. Boldman, which is yet another reference to the John Gardner novels. We then see Bond order some Badacsony Kiknalu, which is a type of Hungarian white wine, some caviar, and some Kurzot, which is a Hungarian cheese spread. And he also does some classic Bond checking out the hotel suite for bugs, a la Live and Let Die, the movie. After a bit of roulette, Bond is told to meet Vavra at the Fisherman's Bastion, where they are ambushed. After defeating the attacker, Vavra tells Bond about an assassin named the Wolf, whose trademark is a silver-jacketed bullet. Bond and Vavra then make their way to the gypsy camp, where Bond tells the gypsies that he was a friend of Kerim Bey, and is approached by a gypsy girl who apparently already knows of Bond, and says that Kerim Bey was her father. This is immediately met with hostility by the chief's son, but the chief is happy to help Bond. Later on, the girl is slapped by the chief's son, and Bond punches him, which makes the chief's son challenge Bond for his honor, which Bond accepts, and wins the knife fight, which they had been tied to each other throughout. The man tells Bond to kill him, which Bond refuses, which the man is not grateful for. The girl explains how she followed Kerim Bey into the Secret Service, and Bond spends the night with her, only to be woken up to soldiers crashing into the camp, which are then defeated by Bond with help from a rocket launcher wielded by the girl. After the attack, it is shown that the chief's son had betrayed them, and just as the chief is about to have to kill his own son, Vavra does it for him. But we see someone load a rifle with a silver bullet, and Vavra is struck down, killed by the wolf, and making matters personal to Bond. So now that we're at the end of the first of the 3 parts of Permission to Die, let's see how it's stacked up. Well, out of the list of Bond comics out there, I must say this is one of my favorites. The story has several moments which blend the Fleming Bond of the books and the Gardner Bond of his books with the movie Bond. Examples, of course, would be how the artist Mike Grell illustrated Bond as having a very similar look to Hoagie Carmichael, which is the way Fleming had described Bond. And, of course, we get some comparisons to the movies, such as Bond using an Aston Martin DB5. And as I've stated already, the use of the ASP 9mm, the use of the Bowman alias, and keeping the .44 Magnum in the car's glove compartment are all hallmarks of the John Gardner era of Bond books. This story obviously has a lot of similarities to the Fleming novel From Russia with Love, but it still manages to do its own thing. The new characters of the story are good. The way that it has Bond reflect on his past makes it feel genuine, such as when Bond is thinking about Tracy, who of course has been dead. And, this moment, it's kind of just touched on. It's not really, they don't hang around on it too long, which I like. The whole gypsy camp scene in this comic is so much like the movie scene in ways, but at the same time, it has enough difference to make it stand out. And strangely, I don't know, there's just something about James Bond and gypsies that just seem to go so well together. For all I've talked about the From Russia with Love influence on this comic, I must say there's also some On Her Majesty's Secret Service influence as well. I was watching an interview, I think it was on James Bond Radio with Mike Grell, and he stated how On Her Majesty's Secret Service was his favorite Bond movie. And we can see that influence, of course, with the fact that Bond is wearing a kilt in the first part of the story and with the flashbacks to Tracy. All right, guys, so tell me what you think. Do you like this comic? Have you read it? Have you not read it? Are you going to read it? It's pretty cheap to pick up on eBay. I think you can probably look it up online. It's pretty good. So that's part 1. And in the future, we'll do part 2 and part 3. We'll do the whole trilogy of it. All right. Of course, I've been Jonathan Lynham for Your Eyes Only. make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share all that stuff. You know how it is. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.